Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so today, we're going back to the office. Or maybe not.
Uh,
Remember like those endless commutes and the fluorescent lights
oh, yeah.
and like that constant battle for just a decent cup of coffee?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you sent us the study from Nature,
Mm.
and it's really challenging like everything we thought we knew about work. So it looks at how working from home just a couple days a week
Huh.
impacts, productivity promotions
Okay.
and even whether people stick around or they jump ship.
Mm.
And the findings
That's
are,
interesting.
yeah, they're pretty interesting. They might make you rethink that morning commute.
Okay.
So before we jump into all the juicy details, let me introduce our expert guide for today. Someone who really just eats, sleeps, and breathes all this workplace trends and data stuff.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. This study really stood out to me because it focuses on professionals like um, lawyers, accountants, marketers, software engineers, people with college degrees who are, navigating this new world of work. Millions are working these hybrid schedules now, so this research is a must-read.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just some online survey, right?
Right.
This was a massive experiment at Trip.com, one of the world's biggest online travel agencies. They looked at over 1,600 employees. So it's making it the largest study of its kind. Plus, it was led by Nicholas Bloom from Stanford, who's basically like a rock star in the world of remote work research.
Yeah, I know his work.
So we're talking serious science here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is the study actually goes beyond, just the number crunching and tries to get into the why behind the trends.
Okay, so spill the tea. What did they find?
Well, the results are pretty surprising. Employees who worked from home 2 days a week, they were just as productive as their colleagues who were in the office all 5 days. And it's not just about getting the work done. Their performance reviews were just as good, and they were just as likely to get promotions.
Hold on. So those managers who swore up and down that people would be slacking off, in their pajamas were wrong.
Well, the data suggests that, yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
Think about those pre-pandemic assumptions. You had to be seen in the office to get ahead.
Right.
But this study flips that on its head.
Okay, so people are just as productive at home, but are they happy? Are they staying with their companies?
That's where it gets really interesting. Resignations at Trip.com, they dropped by a third. Among those who switched to a hybrid schedule, it's like giving people that flexibility is actually making them more loyal to the company.
So fewer people quitting, which means
Lower costs for companies. Trip.com estimated they saved millions just from reduced staff turnover. Recruiting and training new employees is expensive. Keeping your current team happy and engaged, that's where the real savings are.
yeah, totally. I'm starting to see why you called this study a game changer, but I have to ask, what about those water cooler moments? The spontaneous brainstorming?
Yeah.
The team bonding. Can you really build a strong company culture when everyone's all scattered?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's one that a lot of companies are grappling with. The study suggests that good management is key. You can't just send people home and expect everything to just work out magically. You need clear communication, strong leadership, and a focus on outcomes rather than just hours spent in the office.
So it's not just about where you work, but how you work right.
Exactly. This study shows that hybrid work, when done right, can be a win-win. Employees get the flexibility they crave, and companies see the benefits in productivity retention, and even their bottom line.
I bet there's some downsides too, right? Maybe things the study didn't cover. Stay with us because in part 2, we're going to dig into the potential pitfalls of hybrid work and what it all means for you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every rose has its thorns, as they say. And the study, while groundbreaking, it doesn't, paint the whole picture.
You're right. So let's play devil's advocate for a sec. What are some potential downsides to hybrid work that we should be thinking about?
Well, one thing the study doesn't really address is the potential for inequality. So what about those who really thrive in a face-to-face environment?
Right.
Could they be at a disadvantage? When it comes to promotions or opportunities, it's something companies need to be mindful of and actively work to prevent.
That's a great point. And I can see how it would be easy for those who are in the office more often to be top of mind for managers, even if their remote colleagues are just as productive.
Precisely. And then there's that whole issue of isolation. For some people, the office is their social hub. Working from home can get lonely, especially for those who live alone or are new to a company.
Yeah. There's something about those casual conversations and the impromptu coffee breaks that you just can't replicate online.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the practical challenges. Not everyone has like a dedicated home office, and distractions can be a real productivity killer.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, there's the whole issue of technology. Not everyone has reliable internet access or the equipment they need to work effectively from home.
For sure. So it sounds like hybrid work isn't a magic bullet. There are definitely some potential downsides that need to be considered.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that what works for one person or one company may not work for another. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here.
So how can companies and individuals make hybrid work well actually work? What are like some best practices?
Well, first and foremost, clear communication is key. Everyone needs to be on the same page about expectations, deadlines, and availability. And it's not just about communicating tasks, it's about fostering a sense of community and connection, even when people are working remotely.
So virtual team building activities,
Yeah.
regular check-ins, maybe even some fun online social events.
Exactly. It's also important to set clear boundaries between work and personal life. When your home is also your office, it can be tough to switch off.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I've definitely been guilty of answering emails late at night or working on weekends when I should be relaxing. It's a slippery slope.
And that's why it's so important to have dedicated work hours and to stick to them as much as possible.
For sure. Another thing I've been thinking about is the impact of hybrid work on different generations. Older workers might be more accustomed to traditional office settings, while younger generations might be more comfortable with remote work.
That's an interesting observation. And it's something companies need to be aware of. Creating a hybrid work environment that works for everyone requires flexibility and a willingness to adapt to different needs and preferences.
So it's not just about ticking boxes and implementing policies. It's about creating a culture of trust, flexibility, and mutual respect.
Exactly. And let's not forget the role of technology. Investing in the right tools and platforms can make a huge difference in terms of communication, collaboration, and productivity.
This conversation has really highlighted that hybrid work is so much more than just working from home a few days a week. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about work, and it requires us to rethink everything, from office design to company culture.
This study gives us a great foundation to build upon, but there's still so much to learn. The future of work is still being written, and it's exciting to see how it will continue to evolve.
Speaking of evolution, let's bring it back to you, our listener. You've heard the pros and cons, the data, and the insights. But what does it all mean for you? Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll connect all the dots and leave you with some food for thought.
Okay, so we've covered like a lot of ground today. We've seen the data, the potential benefits, and even some of like the pitfalls of hybrid work. But now it's time to kind of bring it all home.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you the most from this study?
For me, it's that idea of challenging those old assumptions about work. We've always been told that FaceTime is king, that you have to be seen in the office to get ahead. But this study suggests that maybe that's not true anymore.
Yeah, it's like we're in the middle of this massive social experiment, and the results are still coming in. The traditional office model, it isn't necessarily dead, but it's definitely evolving. Yeah, and I think that's what makes this so exciting. It's not just about like working from home or being in the office. It's about finding what works best for each individual and each company.
Yeah, and this study specifically looked at professionals with college degrees, right? But I think the principles apply across many fields. It's about trust flexibility and a focus on outcomes rather than just being present.
And this study didn't dive into the types of college degrees, did it?
It did it, and that's a great point. Did hybrid work as well for engineers as it did for marketers? I'd be curious to see future research that, breaks down those nuances.
Totally. Imagine if we could create a world where people could work in a way that allows them to be their most productive and fulfilled selves.
That's a powerful vision, and it's one I think we should all strive for. But getting there requires more than just good intentions. It requires careful planning, open communication, and a willingness to experiment and adapt.
So for you listening, here's the big question. If you could design your ideal work situation, what would it look like? Would you be fully remote in the office every day? Or somewhere in between? And what would you need from your company to make that work?
Those are questions worth pondering. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding what works best for you and then advocating for your needs.
Absolutely. This isn't just about following the trends. It's about shaping the future of work.
And that's what makes this conversation so important. We're not just talking about where we work. We're talking about how we live our lives.
Yeah, well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of hybrid work. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little inspiring.
Remember, the future of work is in our hands. Let's make it a future that works for everyone.
Until next time, keep diving deep.